Hey 7 college nerds! Well, this week is basically tutorial week, and as I really don't know how to do much, I'm going to be teaching you how to bake brownies. And really, brownies are a straightforward thing to make. Really, all you'll need basically is a box of brownie mix, eggs, oil, butter, just a little bit, and this is optional, but walnuts and chocolate chips. Now the first thing you're going to want to do before you even begin to mix anything, you're going to want to grease your pan of choice. I'm using a glass one because that's just generally what I use to bake brownies. And you can use cooking spray if you want, but I don't have cooking spray, so that's where the butter comes in. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to just grease up the pan with butter or just cooking spray like I said before, just to make sure that the brownies don't stick. You want to keep rubbing the butter into the pan until you just get this kind of glossy, kind of obnoxious sheen onto it. I'll see if I can. Basically, you want your pan to look really greasy. After you grease up your pan, set it aside. The next thing you're going to want to do is just pour your brownie mix into a bowl. I'm just using a scissor to open up the package just because it's easier. Then after pouring in your brownie mix, you can either add the water or the oil first. It really doesn't matter. But in this case, I'm going to be adding the water first. So what you're going to want is a 1/4 cup of water. And then something that's always baffled me, you're going to want a 1/2 cup of oil. And this is olive oil, but vegetable oil works just as well. You can really just use either. Then after you add both the water and the olive oil, you're going to want to add 2 eggs. If you want cakier brownies, just add 3 eggs and just follow basic instructions on the back of the brownie box. But in my case, I'm going to just be using 2 eggs. After you add the water, the oil, and the eggs, you're just going to want to stir it up before you add the chocolate chips and the walnuts, because believe me, it'll just be easier that way. And you're going to want to stir it up to the point where you don't see any brownie mix, which, even though I love to bake, is a bit of trouble for me because I always end up with some brownie mix even after I finish mixing everything in.
You want us to think that you're just messing around, yeah. You play your life like it's a game of 2-hand touch. You think if you screw up that you will never live it down, and it won't matter if you suck if you don't take it serious.
Now that your brownie mix has achieved this consistency of just a gloopy chocolate mess, that's when you add the walnuts. And usually 1/2 cup would suffice, but I've used an entire bag before. And it turned out fine. And you're just going to want to mix those in. Then you're going to want to add the chocolate chips. Again, I've used an entire bag before, but I'm going to try not to use a full bag just to avoid it being too chocolatey. So I used about 3/4 of the bag. Then you're going to want to mix it in. You're going to want to mix the chocolate chips in with the walnuts. Then after the walnuts and the chocolate chips are mixed together, you're going to pour the brownie mix into the pan.
I know I'm not the only one who wants to know more about Harry's sons. I really do think there's an unwritten story, and I think it's time to put fingers to keys.
And if you poured the brownie mix kind of unevenly into the pan like I did, just use the spoon that you used to mix everything with to move the mix around. And then this right here should be fine. Now after you pour your brownie mix into the pan, you're just going to want to put it in the oven. And depending on what kind of pan you use, that kind of thing, there will be specific instructions on the back of the box of brownie mix as to what to do. But in my particular case, and don't follow my particular case verbatim because every oven is different, every recipe can be different, but in my particular case, since I'm using a glass bottom pan and I don't want the chocolate to be insanely mushy, I'm going to be putting this in the oven for about 32 minutes. I think if I need to amend the time, I will do so. down in the Chamber of Secrets. So I'm going to put the batter into the oven. I'll be baking these for about 37 minutes at 350 degrees.
Danielle, we'll see you tomorrow. DFTBA.